Hey guys, I hope you're all doing really well. I'm Allure Cosplay, and in today's video, we're going to take a look at my elf deck and why I'm taking it apart. Enjoy! So just a quick disclaimer, I really like deck building, however this is the third deck I've ever built, and it's only built with cards that I had laying around and cards that were donated by friends, so don't judge it too harshly, okay? And let's start with our commanders. I decided to go with Miara and Numa because I really wanted to try the partner mechanic. With elves, you can go with the tall or a wide strategy. I decided to go tall and do 1/1 counters with Numa. In my opinion, decks that are filled with low cost cards definitely require a lot of card draw, and that's why I decided to go with Miara. With a black and green deck, I decided to go with 32 lands. I do have some dual lands in here and a couple of fetch lands, but I really found that I don't need them as much. This deck relies heavily on creatures. I had way too many mana elves. I definitely should have gotten a lot more +1/+1 counter elves that help each other, as well as a lot more death touch / trample to go with my tall strategy. I have a few creatures that help me draw cards, that was very helpful. 3 creatures to do creature tokens, that's definitely not my strategy, should have gotten rid of that. And I have a few creatures that do some mean stuff like destroy artifacts or discard cards. The Abomination is one of my favorite cards. It's definitely one of the most powerful cards in this deck as well. His power and toughness are each equal to the number of elves I control, plus the number of elves in my graveyard. I definitely wanted to make him my commander for a while. His cost is very minimal as well, so that's great. I never even put a soul ring in this deck. This is the only artifact that ever made it in, and I'm not really sure why. And now the instance, this is one of my favorite ones, Eyes of the Beholder. Target creature gets -11/11 to the end of turn. You can kill off a creature like that. It's wonderful. I have a few counters and draw cards. I return a target creature from graveyard. A few destroy artifacts or enchantments. And a few classics. You gotta have some fogs. With the sorceries, I got a few classic greens, search for lands. This is one of my favorite one. Target player loses life equal to the damage already dealt to him or her this turn. If you dealt a lot of damage with your tall or wide army, this is a great card to cast right after. And I have a few more. Discard a card or return a target creature from graveyard. And now let's talk about the enchantments. Elvish Guidance is one of my favorite enchantments for this deck. Whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds 1 forest to his or her mana pool for each elf in play. If you have a large army, that gives you quite a lot of mana each turn. You can use it with Numa and just distribute a bunch of 1/1 counters to all those guys. If you have a larger army, Elvish Guidance also works really well with Hardened Scales. If one or more +1/+1 counters would be placed on a creature you control, that many +1/+1 counters are placed on it instead. So basically, to optimize Hardened Scales, you definitely want to place your counters on different creatures so that you can place 2 counters instead of just 1. So for example, if you have 6 elves, you can use Elvish Guidance and gain 6 mana. Then you can use Numa to distribute 3 counters to 3 creatures and use Hardened Scales to double those counters. I have a couple of more elf-specific enchantments in this deck. I really like this one. You basically enchant a creature and it gets +1/+1 for each elf in your control, and it gives your creature reach, which is really important because honestly that's one of the weaknesses in this deck. Colossification is a classic. The only weakness is that you have to tap your creature when you give them +20/+20, so you cannot attack until next turn or if you figure out a way to untap your creature. And now for some of the weaker enchantments. This one is also kind of good in this deck just because it helps with 1/1 counters. So you enchant a player, whenever a creature attacks enchanted player, put a 1/1 counter on it, and you can definitely double it with Hardened Scales. And then I have some enchantments that fetch you lands or help you with some card draw. There are 33 creatures in this deck. A major weakness is that they don't really synergize well together or with the commander. That is because I built this deck out of cards that I already had or cards that were donated from friends. Another major weakness is that I only have like 3 creatures with Death Touch, Reach, or Trample. Reach is definitely something I need a lot more in this deck because people just fly over and hit me for direct damage. I have way too many creatures that give me mana and not enough creatures to utilize that mana to do something scary with. So if I wasn't taking this deck apart, how would I fix it? First off, Sol Ring is a staple. That should definitely be in every deck that I have. After that, I need to add some win conditions. This deck has absolutely no win conditions. The only way I've ever won is being the last one standing, basically. This deck really needs some tutors. I have no tutors in it to be able to find my bigger creatures on my better enchantments. Aside from flying, another major weakness to this deck is a board wipe. There are no board wipes in this deck, nor do I have a way to combat them. That means that if all my creatures get destroyed, I have to build up my board from scratch. So because this deck is getting torn apart, I'm going to harvest its major organs and feed them to my other decks. Here's a few cards that I want to take from it. I'm definitely taking those few fogs with me. I like card with choices, so I definitely will take that as well. Eyes of the Beholder, minus 1111. It's such an odd number, but I absolutely love it. That's going to go in one of my other decks. Colossification is definitely going to my white-green enchantment deck. Draw a card, that can also go in there. Those are just search for land. I definitely have decks that can use some of those. This is one of my favorite cards. Target player loses life equal to the damage already dealt to him. So if you deal a lot of damage, you can deal double that damage. It basically almost gives double strike to all your creatures without actually giving them double strike. And also return target card from your graveyard. This only costs one, so why not? Well, thank you so much for watching this video. Like, comment, and subscribe for more random geeky content from me. And also don't forget to click the notification button so that you know when I upload next. I'll see you there. Bye!